Good morning. I'm Scott Redler, Chief Strategic Officer with T3Live.com.
And I'm Jill Malandrino with the Streets Options Profits, and together we bring you the morning call. Futures have been up really nice on Wall Street today. The European leaders came up with another plan, and this one seems like it's going to be what they put into place after several months of half-baked resolutions for the sovereign debt crisis over there. So I feel like we have some resolution. I think a little bit of uncertainty is coming out of the market, and the futures clearly reflect that this morning.
I think the action leading up into yesterday also reflected it. I think more and more people started to take note that we're not going to have a resolution yesterday or overnight, but it'll be steps in the right direction. And right now, we've taken some steps in the right direction, or they have, in order just to take some of the calamity off the table. Now you have some of the forecasters, or whatever they want to call themselves, the analysts, saying that GDP needs to be raised around the world. They're saying that our GDP needs to be raised. So now you're seeing excitement in the stock market.
Right, and like we mentioned in the Morning Call Express, the underlying market is getting support from the financials, the industrials, the insurance names, the really big names that are important when we're looking at the market overall.
Yes, these are the names that a lot of people own out there. Middle America, everyone owns some GE, they own some financials. And this is the participation we're getting that's been giving this market some legs. That's why we've been seeing commitment, that's why we've been seeing dip buyers. So if you look here at the chart of the S&P, let me show you what we've been talking about for the past 3 weeks. This was that Tuesday reversal. This was the day that bears lost control. Outside day, day one, red dog reversal. I say it every day because I want you to see it the next time. Here was when we had commitment to the move. This is when we didn't pull in. And then you could add to it. Actually add for cash flow when we broke this mini downtrend. Came up to old resistance, that 1220, 1227, broke above it. And guess what we did yesterday, Jill? We retested it. We came in, retested the area. The market proved that people are still coming in, buying the market, even at 1220. So they're not even letting the market pull into those retracement levels. They were coming in even before people could even sink their teeth into it, keeping the upside momentum, like I talked about with Stephanie, very fast. I mean, shorts trapped, longs chasing.
So what do you do going into the market today where it looks really nice going into the open? How do you play it in the first 30, 60 minutes?
Well, this is the day you don't get excited. Okay, you come in today, if you had longs on, if you had tier 1 or maybe even tier 2, I think tier 2 might have been a little irresponsible. You're excited because you could sell into this. This is where the shorts get squeezed. This is when the stubborn individuals that just kept fighting this move might have to throw in the towel. So you don't just buy this open. What I'm going to do is I'm long a lot of positions. I'm probably going to sell, take some profits on my overnight risk, and then if we could hold up for 30 to 60 minutes, I'll see what stocks, what groups are acting well, and then based on an individual basis, I'll either put on new positions or add, but today's not the day to jump in with both hands. Hopefully you've been involved already. If you've been watching the show, I'm sure you have to be long somewhat.
Right, so and that's a perfect trading plan, because not only do we have to look at the charts for confirmation, analysts are going to pick apart every single piece of this European resolution. We have jobless claims, GDP, and again, like you were saying before, analysts are taking their estimates up slowly with GDP, so that's going to be a big focus today. We have natural gas inventories as well this afternoon and a ton of earnings. Speaking of natural gas, let's jump into the sector with the refiners. That space yesterday caught a really, really nice bid. Reliance, there's a report out of the Daily Mail that Reliance might make a $48 per share bid for Valero. So the whole space trading in sympathy really looked nice yesterday, and we saw some follow through there. So let's take a look at the OIH.
Yeah, the OIH has been very impressive. It was a laggard group like 3 to 6 months ago, and then off the low, it became powerful. That's why you have to always see what's going on in the market, where the relative strength is going, and it's changed. The past few days, retail tech has been a little quiet, and we've seen a comeback in industrials, refiners, and even in some of the banks. So if you look here at the OIHs, you will see yesterday the OIHs actually closed on the highs above this recent range where the Qs didn't do it, the spiders didn't do it, retail didn't do it. So it's showing short term for timers, it was the place to be, and I do think there's some room to at least this 134, to maybe even 140 area at some point this year. And VLO was obviously the catalyst yesterday. And if you look at the chart of VLO, it blasted through resistance, squeezing every short out there. And if you took it home, or you took some of the other names home, you're rewarded today. But this was a big move through resistance coming up to 27. If you have a long-term view, maybe you stay with VLO, but just don't buy it for the potential takeover.
Right.
But that chart looks good.
Right, and I was just going to say that it doesn't make sense for a solid trading plan to trade on the rumor. That's never the right plan. So it's really important that you do your analysis and you look at the charts for confirmation. So let's move on to Tesoro, ticker TSO, which has also had a nice move.
Yeah, I'll take a quick look at the chart, see if there's some opportunity there. If you look at TSO, you will see that not obviously different type of pattern where you had to push through previous resistance, came down, held. I would say traders would be looking for momentum above 27, and if you take a big step back, you will see it's one of the few that are actually close to the old highs. So this one's acting very well for this group.
Okay, same thing with Sunoco. We see some follow through there as well. Could it extend beyond the current levels where it is right now?
Let's take a quick look here. Again, with the whole market, it makes it somewhat tricky to just go out and buy things because of this gap up today. But this too, had a nice move off the lows. It actually held higher here and has been just sort of like churning higher. No real excitement, but above this level here and this level here, I do believe is around 37. Could get going to 38 to 39. This also has some room left. It looks okay.
Moving along to ConocoPhillips, this is one of my favorite names and one of our favorite names to trade on options profits. We've been in and out of the name several times on the site and have done really well. They missed a bit on EPS, but there was some follow through because it beat consensus, and that's what the market's looking for. We also reported on the street yesterday that there's some chatter it could potentially raise its dividend, and investors have been screaming at management for a long time to use that cash that they have, because it's a huge cash cow, and increase the dividend. So I think that there's a lot of fundamental and technical follow through here.
You know what, maybe the CEO and the board heard you guys and they'll come out with it. As far as for me, I don't really trade it, but I'll look at it. Nice tight pattern here. This was the move off the lows. This was an area to buy right when it broke through this little downtrend, and it's been holding higher just like the rest of the market. So it's in line, I'd say above this 72, which it's probably opening above. It has room to about 74 to 76. Shouldn't run away from here, but in the game, something you can own.
Okay, moving along to the trenches. Again, keeping with that earnings theme that we've been really in your faces about over the past week and a half. The theme for this season is you have to deliver a fantastic quarter. Your guidance has to be rock solid. The names that have been able to do that are the ones that are being rewarded. And like we've seen with high beta tech, bid so high up into the print and come crashing down if that guidance and the quarters aren't perfect. So our first name, let's take a look at BP.
Well, BP had a big move. At this point, I don't think anyone even remembers the oil spill. It's well behind you. It shows you how if you embrace volatility, have a long-term plan, you can get value. BP had a big move yesterday. I would say at this point, it's going to come into resistance. I would not be buying BP up here, but if you long it, I would sell some. And if you're waiting to buy some, I would wait for a pullback back to 41. It's already had a huge move. I wouldn't chase it here.
Same thing with Under Armour. Had a nice quarter. The people who were long broke out the champagne because the stock just flew off of earnings.
Yeah.
And again, those are the names that are delivering solid quarters, and the market is rewarding them for it.
And it actually did it on a weekday. I remember, I think it was on Tuesday, the market was down. We were talking about the good solid report. It reversed. That was the day to get long. Today it's a little tricky unless you're an investor. It's actually at highs. So if this shows you that if you were a long-term investor, you actually can make money, not just trading. This would have been my entry if I were you around 77. Now I wouldn't chase it here, but it does have room. It's one of the first few new highs, so congratulations to Under Armour holders.
Moving on to FFIV, another one where they had a nice beat. The stock was clearly rewarded. So do we wait for a little bit of sideways action before we get back involved in the name?
Yes, I think when you have these moves on earnings and they ignite, you can't just, if you get in that day, that's fine, but after we closed yesterday with FFIV, now you can't just buy it because you're going to have to sit through some kind of consolidation. But it's good that the numbers are behind it. It's good that it responded well. If you take a look here, you will see this was a nice day. Couldn't close near the highs. And if you look actually across here, this open gap might stop it for a little bit. What I'd love to see on this FFIV, if it can go a little sideways and hold up here, I think through 105 it closes this gap and you see a nice little momentum trade, but really hard for it to push through straight away because it's had such a big move off those lows.
Moving along to Google, it gapped up following the earnings report as well, but we haven't seen much traction since then.
Yeah, well, this one's actually setting up. This one's been very frustrating. It's very choppy within this upper range. It hasn't been able to break above that earnings high on that day. If you look here, I'll give you some levels to watch. I've lost some money recently in this. It's been really tough. But this was your earnings day. It was a great report, but look where it came from. Now it's going sideways. Yesterday they tried to push it into that gap, but it reversed. So it did get some supply out of the way. Now it's above 600. And if it could hold above 600, 601 on a 30 to 60 minute time frame, I think we see these old highs. And I would put a very high probability. People like to see my conviction. 75 to 80% probability this stock makes new highs in the year. And now it's a split, and it'll be $800 before you know it.
Moving along to one of my favorite plays that we had with Evan, so this one's near and dear to us, IBM. We had a great call with this in August and September. It had nice upward momentum, came down a little bit after earnings, like we said, following along with the same theme. So let's take a look and see where we are right now, if there is room to get back involved in the name.
IBM's been one of the chosen ones, another stock picker favorite. If you own IBM for the long term, you've been rewarded for years. If you trade it, there are opportunities at sometimes. And right now, I think there's a small opportunity for traders. If you look at IBM, you'll see it's trying to hold this rising trend line. I talked about it with Stephanie yesterday, saying that if it were to break this uptrend, it could see a move back down to the moving average of 173. It held in. So now it could attempt to fill this earnings gap. So if IBM were to start getting above, what is this high here? It's like 183-ish or 180, 184. You could see a quick move to fill the gap up to the low here of, I gotta get my eyes checked, about 186. So I do think there's a trade here, and if you're an investor, just stay the course.
Great, and that's one of those names like Apple where you wonder, how much higher can it go? And there's always opportunities, whether you're long, short, intraday range trader. These big names that have a lot of volume, there's always an opportunity, whether you're looking at it 5 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 day, 1 week, and you've been rewarded if you've been able to stick to your plan and manage your positions the right way. Moving along to quick hits for some quick cash or options profits play for today. Ford, I think October auto sales are going to pleasantly surprise. I don't think the recessionary numbers have hit that group as much as people expected. The name's trading under 7 times. I think it's undervalued, and there could be some little moves in here where we can make some money.
Yeah, I think it's relatively safe, and if you want to put some money to work, Ford in these lower levels, I think makes sense.
Moving along to Netflix. This name has been completely annihilated. It's just an absolute mess. So Scott, what are we doing here?
Well, if you're a short-term trader, there's opportunity. And obviously when it broke its uptrend months ago, below 260, that was your time to get out. That was then, this is now. Yesterday, a lot of traders made some money. It was down. We heard some news that one of the guys that were short the stock are going to come on and talk long. He was talking about it on Fast Money. It actually sounded pretty smart and intelligent. So I did get long yesterday, made a few points. I do think it could fill this gap. Be a bit careful. If you have a long-term view, he was saying you could hold it. It's a takeover target. I don't play for that. I think I'm long now. If we could start getting back above 81.40, you could have a move to 90, 95. Why not? Look where this thing came from. I talked about it breaking its uptrend. This is when it broke its uptrend, and it hasn't seen an up day since, and now it's coming into some big support. This I drew, I think, a few months, and actually, no, a few days ago on the report, and that's what's holding. So it does have a bit more room, but it's more for the active intraday trader.
Going back to Apple, again, if you watch the show every day, we're always in and out of this name. And again, because the price is so high and we have investors ask, where can I get in? Where can I get in? Well, we always have a play for you in this. Let's see where we are right now. It's long, it's 50-day moving average. Yeah,
I'm long some Apple. I bought some yesterday. I took some home. It's still in that inside range, and I think we can get a trade there. If it could get into that earnings gap, I think a lot of guys are going to be watching it. Take a quick look at this chart here. You'll see, if I do a close-up here, you'll see everything. It's had a lot of bad news, and it's still holding the 50-day. Still looks good, has an inside range here, closing the highs of the day. That's why I took it long. If it starts to get above this 407 to 408, you can get a quick little squeeze to fill this gap. And if it could fill at least 50 to 75% of this gap, it'll negate this island top, and that'll let some long-time guys feel easy or breathe easier that this stock can make new highs probably at some point going into next quarter.
We've been talking about gold and silver all year, and we've been quiet in like the past week or two. I guess maybe because Alex hasn't been here this week. Yeah. But let's take a look at GLD and SLV. GLD had a nice 2-day move.
Yes, I think for a trader, you just got your 2-day move. 2 days ago, it was a strong day into the close. Yesterday, you had your follow through. I think hopefully you sold some yesterday. I think now it's going to consolidate again. If you're a long-term holder in gold, Tier 1 at best. If you went to Tier 2 down at the lower level, hopefully you sold yesterday. Just stay the course in gold. Right now as a trade, I think it's in a void.
Moving along to GE, and we spoke with Stephanie about this yesterday as well. This is another name that's good for a long-term investor, almost like your IBMs, your Microsofts of the world. If you're a PM, you're not going to get fired for having these types of names in your portfolio.
I trade GE probably 2 times a year when I see a tight setup, and I actually bought GE yesterday just because she said it, and then I looked at the chart pattern, and it lined up. If you look at GE, actually she said that she didn't really like it, but I think there's room here. There was better names out there. this was the move off the low. Here was your resistance. Traded through it, retested it. I think if GE could start getting above 1670-ish, you're going to see a move to at least 1736, and then maybe by the end of the year, 1848. Guys, I need to put money to work. This gives you a dividend, and you can get some upside appreciation. So GE is not a bad spot in the $16 range.
Right, and for those of you that trade the industrials not quite as frequently as we do, the consumer names or the tech names, we had Stephanie on yesterday with Actions Alert Plus. She co-manages Kramer's charitable trust, and the industrial names that she really likes are the truckers. So if you're looking to get involved and look at some new names, Cummins, Eaton, ticker CMI, and ETN, those are some names that you might want to take a look at. But for today's quick hits, we're looking at Ford, Netflix, Apple, GLD, and silver, and looking at a new thing with GE.
Yeah, I'm impressed. She said that she's only got in 7-8% cash. There are a lot of long-only managers out there sitting in a lot more cash than that. So hopefully, being in that she's almost fully invested, today's probably a day where she'll take some off and then be able to buy a dip. That's how you actively manage a long-only portfolio, as well as actively manage your own accounts if you're long 48 stocks. And even as a trader, if you have a 1 to 3 day time horizon or a 1 to 3 week, that's how you do it. You stick with trades and you add for cash flow based on a tight price pattern. But if you get excitement like you do today, today's not a day to add, today's a day to sell into some strength and then look for a better pattern to have some continuation.
Right, it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out, with GDP numbers on a macroeconomic level, how the charts confirm the moves. There's a lot of cash on the sidelines, and these PMs get paid to invest in other asset classes besides cash. So I think fourth quarter is going to be really
very
interesting. It's not going to be a quiet Christmas season.
Right. This was the Bears' last stand, was that, okay, they're going to sell the news. You know what? They didn't sell the news. They're getting squeezed. So now they have a lot of decisions to make, and then a lot of portfolio managers, like you said, sitting in cash, they're going to get that cash taken away if they can't perform with the market. And you have to, provide alpha out there. You need to actually outperform the markets, not just underperform. If you underperform, you're out of a job, considering there are not a lot of jobs out there. Even if the Occupy Wall Street artists say that they're plentiful, they're not on Wall Street. You have to be really good.
Right. So I think we have a really exciting trading day coming up for today, and that's it.
Yeah, and don't get too overly excited. Never let the highs get too high, the lows get too low. Stay consistent, stay even keel, and you'll always make money in this market. We'll see you at the recap. Have a nice day.
Awesome advice. Thanks, Scott.